Hi, this is Prue and I want to do a video about the full moon which is happening tomorrow. That is Saturday the 31st of October, and if you're in the UK it will be happening at 2:49 precisely. So as we know, full moons are a time of the moon cycle that we really want to take note of. So basically 2 weeks ago we had the new moon, and that was the beginning of a new cycle, and so the last 2 weeks the energy of the moon has been building. So if you were looking out of the window you would have seen the moon getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now it's very much the peak. It's where all the emotions come to a head, and often the time before a full moon can feel quite stressful. We can feel this energies building, so it can feel like, oh, the full moon's here, we can let go. It's a really powerful time for releasing, for getting rid of anything that isn't serving us in our life anymore. Now this full moon is a blue moon, and a blue moon isn't unfortunately blue, which would be quite nice, wouldn't it, to look out there and see a beautiful big blue moon, but it's what we call any moon that we have two full moons in 1 month. So we had a full moon at the beginning of October, and now we've got at the end of October we've got another full moon. So anytime that happens we call it a blue moon, and it is quite rare. I mean, it happens every 2 to 3 years, so it's not a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not like, look out for the blue moon, you're never going to see one again. But it does bring some additional intensity with it. The themes that are going on around this moon are likely to feel magnified. We're likely to feel heightened emotions more so, and we tend to have that anyway around a full moon. Things tend to feel a little bit more, I don't like to use the word stressful, heightened I think is probably a better word. So whatever's going on in your life, whether it's joyous, that's going to be heightened. Whatever you put your focus on, it tends to be expanded and magnified. So it's just worth noticing how that's coming up for you in your life right now. Now this full moon is in Taurus. Now Taurus, the moon in Taurus is where we call exalted. So if we think about the moon, it goes through always in a different astrological sign, and there are some signs that she's really comfortable in and other signs she's not so comfortable in. But Taurus is one of, we'd call it perhaps one of her favorites. It's where she feels very familiar, it's very at home, and Taurus is very much about comfort. It's very much about the earth, the body, practical stability. It's a very nourishing sign. It's a fixed earth sign. So wherever we have Taurus in our natal chart, it's where we may want to take things a little bit more slowly. It's where we want to kind of enjoy the view in many ways. And if we think about the moon, it's very much connected to our instinctive responses. It's very much, how do we respond when we're not thinking about it? It's very much about the inward part of us, perhaps the more private side in many ways, often very much connected to children. Children live very much in their moon signs, perhaps more than their sun. That tends to come later. So we would think, wouldn't we, with this wonderful full moon being in Taurus, being exalted, that this is a really, oh wow, this sounds great, I'll have some of this. But I don't want to use the word but, perhaps I should say and, there are some things we just need to be aware of, because this moon, as well as being a blue moon, is conjunct, which means sitting right next to Uranus. Now the planet Uranus is what we call an outer planet, so we can't actually see it when we look out the window. I think it's 1.6 billion miles away from the Earth, so it's not something we can easily see, but it still has a really powerful impact on us. And Uranus, whenever I think of Uranus, I always think Viva la Revolution. Uranus wants to break up the old, anything that's stagnant, anything that's no longer fit for purpose. It wants freedom, it wants truth, it wants to cut down anything that's getting in its way. So it can happen in quite a revolutionary way. It likes to make change, it likes to bring shocks. So with this moon conjunct sitting next to Uranus, it brings a kind of instability to the moon. It's not what she would naturally choose as a kind of a running mate, as it were. She would much rather have something that's much more slower pace, that's less inflammatory in many ways. So we need to be aware that this isn't the most comfortable of positionings for this full moon. So we may see this on a collective level. We may see very unexpected events happening. There may be some shocks, or just generally there may be a sense in your life that you're being sort of awakened in some ways. Uranus is often called the Great Awakener. There may be something that you're being perhaps rudely awoken in some ways, but in other ways it might be, oh, actually I'm seeing things differently, perhaps seeing things through new wise. So we just need to be aware that that's also going on. And also I think we need to also take note that we're in Scorpio season. And Scorpio season is a time where, Scorpio is the sort of the deepest and in many ways the darkest of all the astrological signs. It's very comfortable exploring the taboos of the world. It's very comfortable looking at what's underneath, what's been hidden, secrets in many ways. So right now, when we have a full moon, it means that the sun and the moon in the sky are in opposition. They're not next to each other. So there can be this kind of like pull and push quality to what's going on. Perhaps one part of us wants to explore, wants to lift up the veil, wants to see what's being hidden. Another part of us just wants to stay safe and keep the status quo and keep everything kind of like how it has always been. And I think that can, finding the middle ground with that between the different conflicting poles can sometimes be a bit uncomfortable. So I just think it's another thing for us to be aware of, that with this Scorpio season, the veil between the two worlds, the seen and the unseen world, are kind of at their thinnest. We've got Halloween that's happening tomorrow. We've got Day of the Dead that's happening on the 1st of November, All Souls Day. We've got a lot of energies that don't necessarily, are the more of the nighttime. The lunar energies are stronger. So it's very much about making the most of this, knowing that, the full moons are always a really ripe time for transformation. It's the best time to let go. Is there anything that you don't need in your life anymore? What are your belief systems? Any blocks, relationships? This is a really ripe time for releasing. It's a really strong time. Remember, the moon's going to be flooded with lunar light, so we can see things more clearly, information be brought to us. So think about, what is it that you want to know more of? What is it that you feel like, you've got a blind spot to? Things tend to be shown to us around this time if we ask, if we're aware of it. So it's also a brilliant time for cleansing. A lot of people put out their crystals or anything that needs a good old detoxification, and I know that some people put out bottles of water so it can be filled with lunar light, and I think that's always a nice thing. It's very much like the water becomes quite sacred and almost has an energy of being holy in some way. So there's never anything to be scared of when it comes to astrology. Yes, we're in the spooky part of the month. Yes, the veil between the two worlds at its thinnest. Yes, we've got the moon next to Uranus. Yes, it's a blue moon. So what that means is that we're going to be feeling things. We're going to be more awake. We're going to be noticing. Yes, we can be sort of running up against people. We can see, can't we, that people are a bit more inflammatory, and that's often connected to Mars being in retrograde, and I've done other videos about that. But it's really a time for us to start noticing, to use this Uranian energy to awaken, to think about, what do I want the world, my world, the world to look like? What do I want more of? And to really focus on that, putting out that intention, that energy, because it makes such a huge difference, the thoughts that we are creating, because whatever we're thinking about with this blue moon, it tends to be magnified. So we have this wonderful opportunity to really focus on what we want to be grateful for. Now, I know that sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? During this time of great upheaval, and I'm certainly not making light of all our own individual experiences. I think we're all feeling this collective reset on a very personal level, but there is something for us to learn and grow from. And the full moon is a really great time for us to see things that perhaps we've been missing. So I'm wishing you a wonderful full moon, whatever you're doing. Take this time to think about what it is that's no longer serving you in your life, what it is that you want to let go of. And often sleep can be a bit erratic around a full moon. I know for myself, I've been sleeping very limited on a limited basis the last few nights. So I often think that doing a guided meditation before we go to sleep can really help. So I've also created that, which will be a link in this newsletter. So just sign up to at my website, prudenichols.com, if you'd like the full moon in Taurus meditation. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I always love hearing how the moon is influencing and what she's revealing to you right now. Take care.